Yes, it's going to be a little strange that this episode comes out on Thursday, hopefully not Friday. Not going to lie, I just missed it. My bad. I know I keep saying my bad, but January's just been like this month-long hangover. You know, like you think you're going to get in shape, you think you're going to start going to the gym more, you think you can go eat a little cleaner, start doing things a little bit more proactively, and then next thing you know, it's like, damn, bro, nothing's really going correct. Nothing's really going as I planned, right? Like I told myself I wouldn't eat that. I told myself I wouldn't spend on that. I told myself I wouldn't do this and that. But here we are. Here we are. But honestly, like, no complaints. You know, it's real tough. It's like depression after a party. You know, like after you're hanging out with a bunch of friends, your dopamine's all jacked up, and then boom, it crashes. That's the same way it is for this, right? You have November, you have December, and then January comes, boom, it crashes. Now, January's been a quite distracting month. I will say I had a lot of friends in town, and then, you know, you keep hanging out with them. You kind of lose track of your own responsibilities and goals and stuff like that. But what's the point of complaining about it, right? You just gotta keep at it. And also, I should have added, I'm currently in Colombia. If you hear any background noise or anything like that, it's because one, I didn't pack my actual microphone, so I'm using this little, I forgot what brand it was, DJI maybe? Anyways, I'm using this little handheld microphone outside on a patio next to this hot tub that definitely has some termites in it. So if you hear any background noise of cars honking, stuff like that, I apologize. Hopefully it just adds to the ambiance and the ASMR effect. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ajay Patel Show. My name is Ajay Patel, episode 22. And like I was saying with this whole hangover January thing, still getting back into the hang of things, back into the routine of things. And with that being said, I want to establish the new schedule going forward. The new schedule. I realized that when I moved it from Monday to Tuesday and then back to Monday, I did that without having a big enough sample set, right? Like I didn't release on Tuesday enough. I didn't let that be in my routine enough weeks at a time to be like, okay, you know what? Tuesday's better than Monday. I let Tuesday happen a couple times. The views probably dropped like 4, 5, 10 views. And then I was like, oh, you know what? Got to go back to Monday. And with that being said, I keep missing freaking Monday. And also when I procrastinated throughout the week, right? So I record, release on Monday, editing and posting throughout the week. And then the weekend comes. And you know how the weekend gets, right? Completely gets away from you. And then next thing you know, you're late for that Monday release. So all of this long ass story to tell you that I will be releasing now on Tuesdays. I think it'll keep me much more accountable, much more, what's the word for it? Not efficient, timely. What's the word for it when you show up on time and shit? Punctual. I think it'll keep me much more punctual. So with that being said, you can now count on me releasing on Tuesdays. And I'm super excited for, let's say this comes out on Thursday. And then next week, I'll get to be able to watch the Super Bowl and then, you know, go back on my Taylor Swift bandwagon and then release on Tuesday. But like I said, I am in Colombia, more specifically Medellin, Colombia. I came here for a friend's bachelor party. He's a very well-traveled fella. His name's Santosh. And so when deciding this, it was between probably like Amsterdam, Spain, Colombia. And then, of course, here we are in Colombia. We came a whole week early. I came Saturday. And so me, Santosh, Narain, Vishva, that's just 4 of us. Came here to hang out for a week, work from here, you know, just see the culture, do some random shit. And then we go to Cartagena on Thursday. So that is tomorrow. And that is when, you know, the other people will fly in and that will be actual bachelor party stuff. Now that kind of just goes in line with what I was saying as far as like, you know, the spending doesn't stop, right? The spending will find you one way or another. There was no reason I needed to be here for 7 days, right? I could have came here for the 4-day thing, just straight to Cartagena and then gone home. Save myself probably $1,000, $1,500. But You don't get a lot of moments like this. A lot of my friends are married now. Probably have 7 friends, more than half of them married. And weekends like this, like these guy weekends that you get to get out of the country, get away from your responsibilities, all that stuff. And sometimes you just take the responsibilities with you. And it's much more chill, relaxed, right? Because it's like, okay, you know what? I had fun last night. And now I feel more inclined to attack this goal or whatever. Obviously, with the podcast, I messed that up a little bit. But as far as work has gone, holy shit, this past Monday, I've never worked that hard. And on the topic of travel, I have been blessed to get the chance to do as much travel as I've done. Growing up, I did not travel much. I would travel mainly to Rugby, England, to see my grandparents, and then back to America. That was the extent of our family travel. We had flight benefits because my dad worked for American Airlines, but it was just never something we did. Right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, every summer we go to this different country. Oh, for every Christmas we go to this different country. We like to see these, it wasn't ever that. We would see family in Houston. We would come back to Dallas. We would maybe go to a wedding in North Carolina, come back to Dallas. And then, of course, the annual London trip. I never started doing all this traveling until college and then post-college. Do I have any regrets? Like, do I wish I traveled when I was younger? Not really. It is much more, how do I say this in a nice way? It's stressful to travel with your parents, right? When you're traveling with friends, there's much, or you're traveling with friends, your significant other, whatever it may be. When it's not your parents, it's just, I find it as a much more enjoyable experience. I know that's a little messed up and it may sound bad, but it's the truth. It's the truth, right? You don't have to deal with your mom wanting to do one thing, your dad wanting to do another thing, and then you got to be this mediator in between the two. At least with friends, it's like, okay, you know what? We're friends for a reason, right? We have a similar vibe here. We'll do this and then we'll do that. And then hopefully everyone ends up happy. But while we have been traveling around Medellin, we have had a lot of conversations around, what are your preferences in traveling? Do you like to stay in an Airbnb? Do you like to stay in a hotel? Do you like to stay in the touristy parts, or do you like to stay in the locale, right? The locals. Do you like to stay where, you'll see families working? There's not a lot of bars that speak English. There's not a lot of restaurants that speak, all that stuff. What are your preferences in traveling? And then also, in the tourist world itself, does that help countries or negatively impact them? We've been going on a couple tours. Just yesterday, we went on a coffee tour. Before that, like a beer tour. And we've gotten a lot of insight from these tour guides as far as like, yeah, this is how this is transformed. This is how this is transformed. Me, myself, I'm not a big fan of tours. I think I've gravitated more towards museums now over the past couple of years, where it's just like, I don't have someone talking at me for 2 hours, right? You control your own intake. Like, oh, I find that interesting. I'm going to go read that. Oh, I don't find that interesting. I'm going to skip all over that. When it's a tour guide, you got to keep listening. You got to keep listening. You got to stay engaged. It's rude if you're on your phone. And it's 2 hours, 3 hours. You never know. But starting with the thing at the top, right? How do you pick your travel destination? Do you like picking places mainly in a certain region? Do you like mainly going to Europe? Do you like mainly going to South America? Do you like staying in the United States? Oh yeah, we like to go to Hawaii, and then sometimes Florida, or sometimes California. We really like, going to beaches and then sometimes visiting mountainsides. That's one type of preference. And I can see that being very valid, because it's like, for example, we came here and I've been to Mexico a handful of times. And in Mexico, you look like a tourist. If you look at my face right now, my skin tone, I show up, I look like a tourist. And so then Mexico has become so great at catering to that tourist audience, where it's just like half of them speak English. Half of them speak English. And even if you have a little bit of broken Spanish, you can get away with it, right? Like, oh, ¿dónde está el baño? Boom. You're good. Here in Medellin, and I don't know if it's Colombia in its totality, right? I have yet to visit Cartagena. If you don't know full Spanish, you're not in great shape. Like, I have been surprised at how many people, and I'm talking about in the tourist areas, don't know English. Now, I'm not saying I'm offended by that. It's just what it is, right? It's just the culture here. If you don't know Spanish, how are you going to survive out here? It's tough. Because then every single time you go somewhere, right, you got to pull out Google Translate. And here's the bigger issue. Here's the biggest issue that I've been having over the last couple of days is I look like I'm from here, right? People see my skin tone, they're like, oh, you know Spanish. Or maybe it's just a general assumption of being here where it's just like everyone here knows Spanish. Whether you look white, black, Hispanic, Indian, you know Spanish. If you are in Medellin, you know Spanish. And so when you go into a shop, right, and you're looking at a menu, a waiter will come and then they'll give you the entire readout in Spanish. And you gotta sit there like a dumbass being like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. See. Oh, gracias. It's been exhausting. In addition to that, like, when you scan like the QR, they have the QR code menus here too, and no physical copies. And half of the menus have not been in any type of English. Now, the only reason I find that frustrating is because it's like, this is the tourist area, right? So like, can you just help me a little bit, bro? Help me a little bit. I'm trying to pull out Google Translate. I don't want to keep translating all these menu items. But at the same time, I don't want to be like, damn, would I ever come back here? Unless I know Spanish, probably not. It's tough. So in the future, right, when I'm picking, after I have an experience like this and I'm picking somewhere to travel, I'm mainly thinking about, will I be able to communicate with the people there? In Mexico, you may not know Spanish, but you can still get by. You can still get by, have a good time. A lot of times when you go to Mexico, you're staying at resorts and everyone there knows Spanish. I don't know if there is a resort culture here in Colombia, and I'm sure in Cartagena, where it's much more popular, more people will be speaking English, but it is something I factor in. And then the next thing you go to is, do you stay in the tourist area or do you like to stay in the local area? Do you like to stay where the locals live, right? You get a little small Airbnb, or maybe you just go to a certain town and find a little motel, hotel, and then just set up shop for a couple of days. Personally, and like it may be as frowned upon as it may be, I'm tourist dude. I'm a tourist man till I drop. I like the catering, like I like the convenience. In addition to that, the safety that comes with tourist areas. In the area we are in right now, it is super touristy. Sure, like the Spanish barrier is still one thing, but everything's here. There's shops, there's food, there's bars, there's, convenience stores if you need to go get some deodorant or anything like that. It's all here. And it adds on to, like, if you need to call an Uber, if you need to, here they have something similar to DoorDash called Rappi. And so there's things like that where if I was in a more local area in Medellin, I wouldn't have all of that, right? I would have to go out of my way to go do this and that. Unless you properly prepare, you would be struggling a little bit. And I understand for, like that, like I said, like I want to keep on repeating, this is just me, right? I'm not frowning upon other people that like to stay in the local area, like to be, working with the townsfolk. Sometimes people go to towns to do like, some nonprofits, and then they'll help people in a certain area and then go back home. Personally, when you're going for bachelor parties, you're going for a vacation, you're going for a wedding and stuff like that, tourist areas are just a better fit for me. Whether it's Airbnb or a hotel, I still am of the preference of hotel. I love having the convenience. A lot of times they cater to American travelers, and then, you don't have the language barrier. You have facilities. If you ever want food, most of the time it's downstairs. Basic essentials you can get, a lot of these hotels. And then on top of all of that, it's safe. When you're at these Airbnbs, a lot of times you can't vet the area you're in, right? You can't be, the place could look nice, but then you go downstairs and it's like, oh shit, I need to hold on to my bag a little tighter. I need to make sure I don't, smile too much around this area, or else someone's going to think I'm a punk, rob me, bounce on their way. And I think in another episode, we'll get into, like a little bit more of the Airbnb versus hotel life, because it's everywhere, right? Whether you're traveling to Denver, Florida, LA, do you like to somewhere else in the country? Do you like to stay in an Airbnb, or do you like to stay in a hotel. But for time's sake, I'm going to move by that a little bit and move on to the tourist business itself. As these places become more and more popular, you'll see a lot of these travel agencies kind of start being built around the areas, right? Like, oh, we know a lot of these people want to start traveling to these places. So how do we put something in place that people can contact us, and then we'll do everything? We'll book the Airbnb, we'll coordinate dinner reservations, we'll coordinate, do you want to go on a jet ski? Do you want to go on a coffee tour? We'll coordinate all of that stuff. How these groups get put together, I'm not 100% sure, right? Like, is it a lot of time, is it Americans coming to these places and putting a business together? Or is it local people putting a business together to kind of, boost the economy themselves? One of our tour guides, we were talking, like I mentioned, we were talking about the pros and cons of having this influx of tourism, and it leads to a lot of gentrification, as you know. Now, this is all over the world, right? You see this a lot in like New York neighborhoods, LA neighborhoods, how gentrification kind of just moves slowly through a neighborhood. They'll build a Whole Foods. Next thing you know, it's a nice area. They'll go to an area that's a little rundown, buy out all these people, maybe make a little high rise, make a couple houses on the side for Airbnbs, just like that. All the restaurants will follow that, right? Where the people will land, that's where all the business will start coming. Or maybe it's the other way around. But I've always looked at it as a positive. And I may be way off on this, right? I may be way, way off on this, where it's like tourism does bring money. Tourism does bring money. I understand the evil that it does bring as well, as far as, you're moving a lot of people that cannot afford a certain life to another area that they are living in a more impoverished life. And now I'm second guessing myself. Because if I'm going on the kumbaya train and being like, okay, you know what? All these people were happy without, all these Americans coming into the city and ruining this and that. And, it's not like American people are bringing their culture, right? It's not like we're coming here and being like, hey, this is what, we make. This is our food. This is, like how we do things. And this is how we can make you guys better. And then, the people native to the land, they teach you whatever they got. And then that would be the ideal state where like both parties get to benefit and not one party is left at a more disadvantage. The tourism business, Americans, no matter where else people are coming from in the world, coming here, and people are building bars, people are building high rises, building travel agencies. So now all these kids in college can get jobs, give tours. Our tour guide was 19 and 20. Two tour guides, 19 and 20. They're both in university studying something, and then this is what they do just to make money. Perfectly awesome, right? A lot of the drivers, that's how they make money. People, all these people in the town, right? It's not like they're American people here. They're people that are here, working here, making probably more money because of tourism than they would be without it. So I see the pros and cons of the tourism business itself. And I never like to step on someone's toes, right? If I'm a respectful traveler. I don't smile much, but that's just because I don't want to get robbed. But if I go to a shop, I'm going to be respectful. I'm not going to start bossing you around and being like, hey, come clean this shit up. I'm not going to do all that. Maybe at a resort, maybe at a hotel, maybe a little bit, but mainly I won't do all of that. But at the same time, right? Why travel here if you're not going to get a certain level of convenience? The greatest part of staying at a hotel or, other places like that is so people serve you in the nicest way possible, right? People get to cater to you. You get to go into a place. People go over the top to give you this experience because they know you are traveling. They know you are putting money into their city. They are happy you came here. A lot of places aren't like that, right? A lot of places aren't very receptive to Americans traveling to them. But my experience here in Colombia so far has been pretty positive. Very nice people. Even though you don't know the language, they'll smile, try to understand your hand gestures. And then, of course, you have Google Translate. So that's the, last resort. But overall, it's fun to think about. It's fun to think about like, okay, is this tourism stuff a net positive? Because the city of Medellin itself, there's a lot of high rises. There's a lot of money being pumped into Medellin. Different areas, of course. Like you'll still see a lot of slum areas where there's some working girls and a lot of sketch characters. And then maybe a block down, you'll get on a subway system that's nicer than the New York City subway system. It's that type of, imbalances that you'll see around the area. But traveling is great, man. You got to do it. Someone that I wasn't majorly into until I started traveling was Anthony Bourdain. Never understood why, my friends really liked him or people gravitated towards him. Never really watched those, shows like Parts Unknown and things like that because I never really had an inclination to travel because I never did it growing up. But now, as you get more experiences, you understand him and that show more and the beauty of it, where it's like, damn, like you come here and you have a different type of cuisine every block you go. And how do all of these people get that inspiration? Some of it comes from South America. Maybe someone came from Germany and came and did this. There's so much culture here and so many things to learn where it's just like, okay, this is nice to know. This is great to try. I do want to see more and more things. I don't want people's life to suffer because of the tourism business. And at the same time, I want a world where it's like you get to go and explore different cultures. You get to learn new things. And then maybe at the same time, you share what you know. To get to try different cuisines and just kick it on someone's patio with a fold-out table and, have a beer with them. They bring you their delicacies of the country. It's amazing. It's the simplest stuff where it's like, oh, this is awesome. I don't need to go to some Michelin star restaurant out here. Is it nice? It's like, yeah, we went to a restaurant last night where it was a beautiful view. Food was great. And then a couple hours before that, we were at a coffee farm where they were serving food in, what's it called? The plantain leaves. Both are such beautiful things. Bringing this topic to a close, though, like would I recommend anyone listening to this to visit Medellin or Colombia in general? Obviously I can give some more notes on Cartagena in a later episode, but I think so. South America, this is my first time in South America. So I would definitely recommend at least entertaining it. But first, you better learn Spanish. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is this Capitol Hill hearing that happened. So the CEOs of like Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok were called to, one of these hearings where it's like, hey, there's this major problem that's happening. We are calling everyone together here to try to figure out what is the next course of action. You've probably seen many of these with mainly Mark Zuckerberg because those go the most viral and because he's, everyone knows Facebook, Meta, the world itself, and that billionaire world. And I do love a good course correction, right? Where it's like, okay, you know what? There is this thing that's going very badly. How do we fix it? How do we mitigate it so the problem doesn't become worse? But at the same time, it's the people that are on Capitol Hill, the people that are, telling Mark Zuckerberg, hey, your platform has led to all this harm to these children. It's those same people that I don't trust. It's the same people that I see as evil people. Ted Cruz, whoever else is on that board, right? These aren't good people, quote unquote. But they are in this position to criticize the person that's being called to the hearing. This hearing in particular was around the sexual exploitation that is happening on social media, whether it was someone on Facebook, TikTok, like I said, any social media platform. And the world of sex, and obviously like this goes back to just online bullying, online harassment in general. It's always been a big problem, kids getting bullied. You don't really know how to deal with it at that age. Obviously, it's very easy for someone, easy is a broad term, so I apologize for that, but it's easier for someone my age to get bullied online and then just close the computer, move on with life. For example, the comments I get on some of my YouTube shorts, right? People be like, oh, this fool's just talking to talk. Oh, this fool's the dumbest person in the world. This dude should die. Sometimes I read that shit, I'm like, damn. But at the same time, I'm smiling at it because I know it's like, this is the world of the internet. The internet is not a safe space. It's an amazing thing that we have, right? An amazing world that we get to make everything easier, learn more, explore more, do more things. but there is an evil side to it. And when you're a kid, right? When you're a kid, 15, maybe younger, and you're getting bullied online, it's tough. It is very tough. With this hearing, there was a lot of parents in attendance, and a lot of them were holding up pictures of their kids that died, that killed themselves, or, were harassed or, messed up in some type of way. Sorry, not messed up, affected in some type of way by sexual exploitation or maybe just online harassment in general. Now, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, look, I do not think any of this is safe for a kid that is younger than 13, let's say. The world, this bullying shit is only going to get worse. And I guarantee you that with the direction that AI is going, the bullying is going to get worse. There have been so many recent stories where people are photoshopping a girl's head on some naked body and then releasing it to their class. And sure, it might be AI generated. And sure, you can say like, oh, that's not me. That's not me. That is tough. You cannot get past that. What do? You're literally walking around the hallways of your school and everyone has this naked picture of you. Sure, it might be fake, but have you seen somebody's AI generated shit? How do you get past it? This shit is so evil. And these kids are kids, right? They're doing shit because they think it's funny. It's hard to reason with them and be like, hey, don't do that. That's wrong. It's the same way you try to tell a toddler, hey, don't do that. They don't know any better. The only way to police it is if the parents kind of moderate that consumption, right? How can the parents instill that type of behavior into kids to be like, hey, you're not supposed to do this. You shouldn't try to embarrass this girl in front of this class or to your whole school. And same thing for guys, right? I'm sure there's probably so many things of like a guy's Photoshop getting a guy's face getting Photoshopped onto some, micro penis dude. And look, I know I may sound jokey here, but this is kind of serious. This is just going to get worse. Do I think there's a solution to it? I really don't know. I truly do not know. But in regards to this Capitol Hill hearing where it's like, hey, Facebook, you've been doing X, Y, and Z. TikTok, you've been doing X, Y, and Z. So what can you guys do better? Do I think it's necessary? Dude, one of the people on the board, he asked if Mark Zuckerberg had apologized to these parents. I do not think, and I truly do not think that Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook for this to happen. This was not the intention. This was never the intention, right? We saw the movie. Do I think he is of the best intentions? Probably not, right? Like we've seen the Facebook ads. We've seen how much money is put into Facebook, how much hate generates revenue. It may lead to violence and it may lead to someone dying, but it generated revenue. And so I understand that that's the evil side of it. But I do not think that these were the intentions of these people that are creating these social media platforms. And that's what sucks, right? Where it's like, okay, so then are you going to shut down Facebook? Are you going to shut down TikTok? Something else is just going to take its place. You might be stopping the bleeding in one area, but the person is still dying. This is all a bigger problem than this Capitol Hill hearing. And like I was saying a moment ago, where it's just like, it's so hard to see evil call evil. It's so hard to see someone that doesn't have everyone's best interests at heart look down on someone that is being called upon and say, hey, you don't have everyone's best interests at heart. It's hypocrisy, right? It's straight up hypocrisy. And I'm not saying people on the board need to be pristine, right? I'm not saying they need to be the best people in the world, donating to charity and all this stuff. But we've seen what they do, and more so that they don't do. Kids dying every day from gun shootings, all that stuff, right? All those people on Capitol Hill, all those people on Capitol Hill, what have they done? Sure, Facebook might be killing a kid every month and all that stuff, but look at, there's so many problems to tackle. the social media game of it, the social media harassment of it is just one leg of the problem, right? It's just one path that's happening where it's like, okay, maybe we should fix this. But also, there are bigger things to also focus on. I'm not saying we should not, regulate how Facebook and TikTok are controlling their content, how they push it into kids' eyes, right? Everyone has an iPhone nowadays. Everyone has an iPhone. It's just going to happen. You're terrified for your kids' safety. You have this Apple device. You'll be able to track them. It's not like there's any other phone that you want to get them. You're not going to get them a flip phone. You don't want them to get bullied in school and online. So what else do? You get them a phone. They're going to download TikTok. Whether you shut off the internet, they still got data. Sure, you can regulate screen time and be like, I have this age restriction on all this stuff. It's like having the parental lock on TVs when you were younger. You knew that goddamn password. You knew it was 0000. It's tough. Kids are going to be kids. These kids are geniuses, man. They find ways to do this. They know what their objective is, and they'll figure it out. And then they get online, and obviously you can't control the input that's going into TikTok that they will be then consuming. I don't want to rant about it too much, right? But it's just something that I found so interesting and something that kind of made my blood boil, where it's like, we're witnessing hypocrisy right in front of us. And there isn't even a party to be like, hey, this is right. Hey, this is wrong. Because both sides have their own faults. And the media does so much, right? The media, the way things are painted in the media is what people will believe. If I paint the story of, hey, I called Mark Zuckerberg here because his platform has killed all these kids, that's the media. That is what the focus is on. Now imagine if I change that storyline of like Mark Zuckerberg gets called upon by someone that hasn't fixed gun violence, that's killed millions of kids, to talk about how his social media platform has negatively impact youth. Something similar is like what's happening in Los Angeles right now, where there's these two high-rise abandoned apartment buildings in the heart of downtown. It is right next to the crypto arena. It's still weird to say that because I still say Staples Center, but it is right there. And what's been happening is these graffiti artists have been tagging all of the windows outside. I don't know if it's one window at a time. I don't know how much time it took, but both buildings are now completely covered in graffiti. And the picture is painted as, oh, these graffiti artists are vandalizing these homes. They're horrible people. Like, how could they? You have these two buildings that are completely abandoned. And then you walk around that street and you see so many homeless people. So much crime. But the city of Los Angeles won't do anything about that. They won't do a damn thing about that. In California, and we're going to talk about this on a future episode, you can literally walk into a store, take whatever you want, and then just walk out. That's why so many stores have started closing in California, where it's like, we can't stay open. People are coming in here and robbing all of this shit, and they may get a little slap on the wrist. They're not doing any jail time. Half the time, I can't even get the police to come here, right? There are so many problems in California, but like I said, how the media turns it, where it's like, these people are vandalizing the building. They're ruining these two beautiful apartment buildings. And it's like, yo, they were abandoned. There's not a damn person living in there. And a block down, you got Skid Row, where there's 100 homeless people. Also, I think the buildings look kind of cool. I think you just turn this you just flip it a little bit and be like, yeah, this is just, a nice little art piece to look at. So next time you're on that LA bus, that hop on, hop off bus, that's a little piece you add on. Oh man. I appreciate you guys. And I do apologize one more time for being late on the episode. My last little tidbits I have is Nick Haley lost to absolutely no one in Nebraska. I don't know how you do that. People were literally seeing the ballot with Nick Haley's name on it. And yes, I know her name's Nikki Haley. And they were writing, yeah, you know what? I don't want to vote for anyone on this ballot, and submitting it. I know last episode I was like, hey, I'm gonna hop on the Nikki Haley train. Forget that. I can't be taking a big loss like that already in 2024. Second, as much of a Swiftie as I sounded like last episode, I do think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. I think Travis Scott got robbed of a Grammy, even though I really did like that Killer Mike album, mainly the one with Dave Chappelle on that song called Run. And last, I think I have a major crush on Miley Cyrus now. With that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Obviously, it all helps the channel. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.